Hey, this is Mr. Went with your read aloud for Monday. We have started reading the book Shiloh. We've read chapter 1 and chapter 2. In chapter 1, Marty's followed home by a dog that he kind of falls in love with. And he's struggling with whether to return the dog or not. Chapter 2, his parents make him take the dog back to the owner who we think might be abusing. And we find out is abusing the dog because when Shiloh jumps out of the truck, the owner kicks him and the dog runs off yelping and running and trying to hide. So this is chapter 3 of Shiloh. I don't sleep more than a couple hours at night. When I do, I dream of Shiloh. When I don't, I'm thinking about him out in the rain all afternoon, head on his paws, watching our door. Thinking how I'd disappointed him, whistling like I meant something that first time, getting him to come to me, then taking him back on over to Judd Travers to be kicked all over again. By 5 o'clock, when it's growing light out, I know pretty much what I have to do. I have to buy that dog from Judd Travers. I don't let my mind go any further. Don't dwell on what Judd would want Judd would want for Shiloh, or even whether he'd sell him. Especially don't ask myself how I'm supposed to get the money. All I know is that I can think of only one way to get that dog from Judd, and that's what I'm going to do. My bed is the couch in the living room, so when my dad comes in to fix his breakfast, I pull on my jeans and go sit out across from him in the kitchen. First, he makes himself a lunch to carry to work. He drives his Jeep to the post office in Sistersville, where he cases mail for around 200 families and delivers it, then comes back to the friendly post office, where he cases mail for 200 more, delivers that too. Routes take him about 85 miles on roads you can hardly get on but in the winter. "Morning," he says to me as he stuffs a sandwich in a sack, then starts in on his breakfast, which is wheat checks and any kind of fruit that we can get from our peach tree. He makes himself coffee and eats the cornbread and biscuits that Ma saves for him from our meal the night before. "Can you think of a way I could earn myself some money?" I ask him, with his froggy kind of voice that shows you aren't woke up much yet. Dad takes another bite of cornbread, looks at me for a moment, then goes on studying his cereal. Says exactly what I'd figured he'd say. "Collect some bottles, take them in for deposit. Pick up some aluminum cans, maybe, for the recycling place." "I mean real money. I gotta have it faster than that." How fast?" I try to think. Wish I could earn it in a week, but I know I can't. Have to go out every day for a whole summer collecting cans and bottles to have much of anything at all. "A month, maybe," I tell him. "I'll ask along my mail route, but I don't know that many folks with money to spare," he says, which is what I thought. After Dad's gone off, Becky gets up before Ma and I fix her a bowl of Cheerios, put her sneakers on so she won't stub her toes, and brush the snarls out from her hair. Read once in a book about how some kids earn money babysitting. Boy, if I ever got paid even a nickel for every time I had to take care of Becky and Dara Lynn too, I'd have a lot of dollars. I do a whole bunch of jobs that other kids other places get paid to do, but I wouldn't even ever occur to me to ask for pay. If I asked Dad, he'd say, "You live in this house, boy?" And when I'd say yes, he'd say, "Then you do your share just like the rest of us." Which is why I never asked. "More Cheerios," says Becky, and all the while I'm making her breakfast. I'm thinking the best route to take to find aluminum cans. By the time Dara Lynn gets up wearing one of Dad's old t-shirts for her nightgown, I figured how I could double my can count. But when Ma gets up a few minutes later, she takes one look at me and guesses what I'm thinking. "You got that dog on your mind," she says, lifting the big iron skillet to the stovetop and laying some bacon on it. "Thinking don't cost nothing," I tell her. She just gives me a little smile and then sets about making my bacon crisp the way I like it. And we don't say any more about Judd's dog. Must walk 5 miles this morning, and all I find is 7 cans and 1 bottle. When Dad comes home about 4, he hasn't found anybody looking for help either, but he says, Sears Fall catalog come in this afternoon, Marty. You got nothing better to do tomorrow? You could ride my route with me, help me deliver 'em. I say yes to that. No, I won't get nothing more out of it than a soft drink at the gas station, but I like going around in the Jeep, running over the back roads like Rippentuck and Cowhouse Run Road with Dad. Can take a bag with me just in case and pick up any cans or bottles that I happen to see. That night, Dad and I sit out on the porch. Ma's in the swing behind us shelling lima beans for next day, and Becky and Darylyn's in the grass catching lightning bugs and putting them in a jar. Dad laughs at the way Becky squeals when she gets a bug in her hand. But seeing those bugs in a jar reminds me of Shiloh all chained up at Judd's, a prisoner as sure as those bugs are. Truth is, about everything reminds me of Shiloh. Once you got a dog to look at you the way that Shiloh looked at me, you don't forget it. Got 17, Darylyn shouts. Aren't they pretty, Ma? Almost could turn off the electricity and let 'em light the kitchen, Ma says. You going to let 'em go? I ask. Darylyn shrugs. They'll die if you keep 'em in a jar, I tell her. Becky, she comes over and crawls onto my lap. We'll let 'em go, Marty, she says and kisses me on the neck. A butterfly kiss, she calls it. Bats her eyelashes against my skin. Feels like a moth's wings. She laughs and I laugh. Then far off, I hear a dog. Leastwise, I think it's a dog. Might have been a fox cub, but I think Shiloh. Hear that? I ask Dad. Just a hound complaining, is all he says. Next morning, Dad gives me a nudge when he comes through the kitchen to get up, and I'm up like a shot. We ride to Sistersville, and I haul all those catalogs out to the Jeep with Dad, while Dad cases the mail. Not everybody gets a catalog, of course, but anyone who places an order with Sears during the year gets one, so there's lots to load up. Now, back in the day, even when I was a kid, Sears would send out a great big thick catalog, and everybody that bought something from Sears got that catalog, and you'd have to call in an order. So you dial your phone, and then you'd call Sears and say, I would like to place an order, and then you'd place the order, and you could order things by mail. And sometimes you go pick it up at the store, and sometimes it would be delivered to your house, kind of like we do with Amazon now. But they didn't have the internet, so they sent out catalogs with pictures of all of the things that you could buy from Sears. By 8:45, we're on our route. Dad pulls the Jeep up close to the mailboxes, and I stuff the mail in, turn the little red flag on the side, if there is one. Some folks even wait down at the mailbox, and then you feel real bad if you don't have anything for them. Dad knows everybody's name, though, and he always takes time to say a little something. Morning, Bill, he says to an old man whose face lights up like Christmas when we stop. How's the wife doing? Oh, about the same, the man says. This catalog's sure going to cheer her. And he sets off for his house, mail tucked under his arm. People even leave something in their mailboxes once in a while for Dad. Mrs. Ellison always leaves a little loaf of banana bread or a cinnamon roll, and Dad saves it to eat with his lunch. After we finish Sistersville, we do the friendly route, but as the Jeep gets up near Shiloh, my heart starts to pound. I'm thinking of closing my eyes tight in case the dog's around. If I see his eyes looking at me, they'll just drive me crazy. I can hear dogs barking when we're half a mile off from Judd Travers' trailer. Dogs can pick up the sound of a Jeep that quick. I get Judd's mail ready for him. He hasn't got any catalog coming, but he's got 2 other magazines that'll probably warm his heart. Guns and Ammo and Shooting Times. Why don't he take a magazine about dogs? I'm thinking teach him how to be kind. All the dogs is chained up when we get to his place, so none's waiting for us at the box. But Judd is. He's got a great big old sickle. Is cutting weeds along the side of the road, he says. Morning, Dad says as the Jeep pulls up. Judd straightens his back. His shirt's all soaked with sweat, and he wears this brown handkerchief tied around his forehead to keep the sweat from running in his eyes. How you doing, Ray? He says, and comes over to the Jeep with his hand out. I give him his mail, and he even stinks like sweat. I know everybody sweats, and everybody's sweat stinks, But seems to me Judd's sweat stinks worse than anyone else's. Mean sweat. How come you aren't at work? Dad says. You think this ain't work? Judd answers. Then he laughs. And got me a week of vacation coming, so I take a day now and then. This Friday as I'm going hunting. Take them dogs up to the ridge and see if I can get me some rabbit. Possum maybe. Haven't had me a possum dinner for some time. Dogs okay? Dad asked, and I know he's asking for me. Lean and mean, Judd says. Keep 'em half starved. The hunt better. Gotta keep 'em healthy though, or you won't have 'em too long, Dad says. I know he's saying that for me too. Lose one, I'll buy another, Judd tells him. I can't help myself. I lean out the window where I can see his face real good. Big round face, whiskers on his cheeks and chin where he hasn't shaved his face for 5 days. Tight little eyes looking down on me beneath his bushy eyebrows. That dog that followed me home the other day, I say, he okay? He's learning, Judd says. Didn't give him an ounce of supper that night, just to put him where he could watch all the others eat. Teach him not to wander off. Got him back in the shed right now. My stomach hurts for Shiloh. That dog, I say again. What's his name? Judd just laughs, and his teeth are all dark where the tobacco juice oozes through. Hadn't got a name. Never name my dogs. Dogs 1, 2, 3, and 4 is all. When I get 'em, I whistle. When I don't, I give 'em a kick. Get, scram, out, damn it. That's my dog's names. And he laughs and makes the fat on his belly shake. I'm so mad I can't see. I know I should shut my mouth, but it just goes on a-talking. His name's Shiloh, I say. Judd looks down at me and spits sideways. Studies me a good long time, then shrugs as the Jeep moves forward again and along the river. That's where we're going to end today. So, Judd makes Marty pretty mad the way he talks about his dogs. How do you feel about how Judd talks about his dogs?